Good morning, students. Welcome back. This is your sociology class, students. Today I'm going to start a new chapter from the book Indian Society. The chapter name is Patterns of Social Inequality and Exclusion. The chapter name is Patterns of Social Inequality and Exclusion. First of all, from the chapter Social Inequality, I hope we are class 12 students. We know very well what do you mean by the social inequality. But still, I have to repeat it. That's why please follow your book and listen to me. Social inequality and exclusions are facts of social life. In everywhere in our society, it's present. The everydayness of social inequality and exclusion often make them appear inevitable, almost natural. And most importantly, we are habituated with this process. We often think of them as being deserved or justified in some sense. Life chances and opportunities are not equally available to everyone. It is true. They are less for the suppressed caste or the backward caste. Patterns of social unequal access to social resources are commonly called social inequality. What is it? Patterns of unequal access to social resources are commonly called social inequality. Some social inequality reflects innate differences between individuals. For example, their varying abilities and efforts. Next things I have to say, that is social inequality is social. Why? Because they are not about individual but about groups. Second, they are social in the sense that they are not economic, although there is usually a strong link between social and economic inequality. When we are studying inequality and the exclusion, first two terms are we are generally used, that is economic inequality and social inequality. So they are social in the sense that they are not economic, although there is usually a strong link between social and economic inequality. Third, there are systematic and structured. They are systematic and structured, and there is a definite pattern of social inequalities. So students, I said that social inequality is social. Why? For number one, they are not about individuals but about groups. First. Second is they are social in the sense that they are not economic, although there is usually a strong link between social and economic inequality. And third number is they are systematic and structured. There is a definite pattern of social inequality. Next we will see, that is social resources. Social resources. In every society, some people have a greater share of valued resources like money, property, education, health and power, and many others. These social resources can be divided into three forms of capital. These social resources means like money, property, education, health, power, prestige. and others. All these social resources can be divided into three forms of capital. Economic capital in the form of material assets and income. What is it? Economic capital. Economic capital in the form of material assets and income. Cultural capital such as educational qualification. Cultural capital such as educational qualification and status, prestige. Social capital is the form of networks of contacts and social associations. So, students, I want to clear it again. In every society, some people have a greater share of valued resources like money, property, education, health, and power, and many others. These social resources can be divided into three forms of capital. Economic capital in the form of the material assets and income. Cultural capital such as educational qualification, status, prestige, etc. Social capital is the form of networks of contacts and social associations. Often these three forms of capital overlap and one can be converted into the other. For example, a person from a well-off family, it's a economic capital, can afford expensive higher education and so can acquire cultural or educational capital. Someone with influential relatives and friends, that means social capital, may through access to good advice, recommendations, or information managed to get a well-paid job. Understood? Okay, I am repeating it once again. Example. Often these three forms of capital overlap and one can be converted into the other. Example, it's a very good example. A person from a well-off family, its economic capital, can afford expensive higher education and so can acquire cultural or educational capital. Someone with influential relatives and friends, what does it mean? Social capital, may through access to good advice, recommendations, or information to manage to get a well-paid job. So we are studying social inequality and exclusion. Another things we have to also discuss, that is social stratification. Sociologists use the term social stratification to refer to a system by which categories of people in a society are ranked in a hierarchy. All of we knows very well what do you mean the social stratification. According to the sociologists and social thinkers, use the term social stratification to refer to a system by which categories of people in a society are ranked in a hierarchy. This hierarchy shapes people's identity and experiences, their relations with others, as well as their access to resources and opportunities. Okay, now according to our book, 3 key principles of social stratification is also present. Number 1, Social stratification is a characteristics of society. If the society is present, so you cannot ignore the social stratification. It's a part of our life, not simply a function of individuals' differences. Social stratification is a society wide system that unequally distributes social resources among categories of people. Social stratification persists over generations to generation. It is closely linked to the family and to the inheritance of social resources from one generation to the next. A person's social position is ascribed. The ascribed aspects of social inequality is reinforced by the practice of endogamy. This means marriage is usually restricted to members of the same caste, ruling out the potential for blurring caste line through intermarriage. Side by side, you can also say that social stratification is supported by patterns of beliefs or ideology. No system of social stratification is likely to persist over generation unless it is widely viewed as being either fair or inevitable. The caste system, for example, is justified in terms of the oppositions of purity and pollution, with the Brahmin designated as the most superior class and Dalit as the most inferior by virtue of their birth and occupation. Understood? People face discriminations. Peoples are faces lots of discriminations in our society. Why? Because due to their gender, due to their religion, due to ethnicity, due to language, due to caste, and disability. Now we have to study what do you mean by the prejudices. Prejudices is a preconceived notion, prejudgment. Prejudice means preconceived notions or prejudgment. It's mostly negative. Prejudice is also known as an opinion formed in advance of any familiarity with the subject before considering any available evidence, often based on the direct evidence and are resistant to change even in the face of new information. Another term is coming from the prejudices, that is stereotypes. Grounded on prejudices, fixed and inflexible characterizations of people, often applied to ethnic and racial groups and to women. A whole group is considered homogeneous. For example, Rajputs are supposed to be courageous, girls are emotional, boys don't cry. What I said the example? Rajputs are supposed to be the higher caste. Girls are emotional. Boys don't cry. It's a characteristics of stereotype. Now I'm going to discuss discrimination. What do you mean by it? It has lots of meaning. Discriminations, the way you treat people differently in reality. Discrimination means the way you treat people differently in reality. Disqualify member of on group from opportunities open to others, as when a person is refused a job because of their gender or religion. that is known as discrimination. Can be very hard to prove because it may not be open or explicitly stated. Discriminations is also a part and portions of our life. It's a very close friend of social inequality. Actually, social inequality means yeah, discrimination. So, students, um, today I said a term that is stereotype. Stereotype means a characteristics. A categorize a whole group having one certain characteristics. A group is considered homogeneous. That is known as stereotype. Discrimination, for example, in factories owned by Hindus, they wouldn't take Muslims as workers, and they would give some reasons for not taking them. Reasons is not openly said, but people know it is due to discrimination. The reason is not the actual ones. That is known as discriminations. So students, today up to that, before social exclusion, I have discussed patterns of social inequality and exclusions from the chapter. Today we have learned that inequality means inequality is economic and social, because life chances and opportunities are not equal available to everyone. They are less for the suppressed caste. Here we have seen that social inequality also has three parts, that is economic, social and cultural. After that, from the social inequality, we have seen that social stratification. If in a society there is present social inequality, there should be social stratification. Groups divided into segments, portion, differentiate them on the basis of their social economic status, that is stratification. Next we have seen that prejudices means the preconceived notions, prejudgment. When prejudices against other and the group doesn't think so, they don't think they are inferior and try to prove themselves, is called positive prejudice. From the prejudices, we learned the term that is stereotype. Stereotype means a special particular characteristics, that is, it may be an individual or maybe a group can hold. You having 6 finger on your left hand, it's your personal characteristics, it's your stereotype characteristics, that is known as stereotype. The stereotype term we can apply in a group also. A whole group is considered homogeneous, like the Rajputs that I already said. For example, girls are emotional. It's a characteristics of girl. Boys do not cry. Girls are generally want to love to take with doll toys, but boys are interested to take the cars or the guns, like toys, etc. So it's a basic own characteristics, that is known as stereotype. Next we have discussed, that is discrimination. In reality, the way you treat people differently, that is discrimination. The way you believe toward a particular group, to act on your prejudice and stereotype, In India, you discriminate against gender, race, religion, caste, class. In a job interview, there are types of boys and one girl, and the girl does not get the job. They give excuse for selecting them. So, students, up to this next class, I will discuss about our next portion, that is social exclusion. So I'm requesting to all of you, if you have any queries and questions, please note it down. In my Zoom class, you can ask me and I will give your answer. That's all for today. Thank you everyone.